privilege to be here. And it's actually great to be outside of that building over here with people who are normal. So, you know, I have a lot of people ask me, how do you stand up in Sacramento? It does take a piece of my soul, it really does. But when I get in the district, I'm just so grateful. There's so many great people in California where you don't want to give up because there's a lot of them, you know. Even I was reading or listening to the guy who ran Rick Perry's campaign, and they did a poll. They're trying to help us out. In California, they said there's about 1.5 million evangelicals who believe as we do, but they don't go to church and they don't vote. And then plus people that go to church, if they were to vote, we would win elections. So
that is a huge problem.
Huge problem. A lot of challenges coming up. And so one of the things I just want to share is I've been thinking about California in our losses. It's good to remember to draw on people like Winston Churchill or Abraham Lincoln. If you remember Lincoln, in 1857, the Supreme Court had said that Frederick Douglass was indeed somebody's personal property. So Lincoln ran in the next year against Stephen Douglas to try to end slavery, and that didn't happen. So we came back 2 years later, ran for president, and I'm sure there was those middle of the road or Republicans then who didn't want him because it took 3 ballots for Lincoln to win, you know, so he never gave up. And Churchill's story is even more so when you think that, if you remember the London Blitz, right? London was being bombed 57 consecutive nights in a row.
Oh my God.
And FDR did not want to sail destroyers to Great Britain because he was concerned that he was pretty sure that the Nazis were going to defeat the British. But anyway, then so Churchill gives a speech about never give up, never, never, never. And so I think that's where we are today. But I just want to share a couple of things which inspires me. When I think about Washington, he said that in his farewell address, the centerpiece of all the habits and dispositions which lead to political prosperity, morality and religion are indispensable supports. And you can track back to John Locke, Alexis Tocqueville, or the great Thomas Aquinas and St. Augustine, and the Greeks, Aristotle, Plato, and Socrates, and even go back further than Moses. It's not always about money, it is about morality and religion. And so this place across the street is producing some really bad bills, and so that's why we have to stand up and stop this immorality, because I don't believe California is lost. You know, the 21 missions were started here, if you remember. Focus on the Family, Campus Crusade for Christ, and young Billy Graham, when he was 19, was up in the San Bernardino Mountains and believed that God had called him to preach the gospel to the world. And so I think a lot of people have forgotten the rich heritage that we have, that the state possesses, but I don't believe God's forgotten, nor do I believe that he's written our state off. I believe he wants the state back, but it's up to us to do it, you know. And so just a couple of closing thoughts, because I see Tom back here getting nervous. I want to remind us of our founders, who with a firm reliance upon divine providence, they basically pledged to one another their lives, their fortunes, and their sacred honor. And that was just not trite words. A guy named John Hunt came home and told his wife, I'm going to sign that document. You know what that means, don't you? She says, yes, I do. So he went back to Philadelphia, he signed that, but by the time the war broke out and he got home, the British had destroyed his farm, put his wife in prison, where she later died from injuries from prison, and he never saw his 13 kids again. You know, another founder had 2 boys that were captured by the British, and the British said, you can have your 2 sons back if you just renounce your signature off of that document, but he wasn't willing to do that. And so I think we're at a time where it's going to require a lot of sacrifice, where we have to pledge our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor to our country. And we can't let the Republican Party platform die or change, because those are principles that are going to win. And even thinking about Ronald Reagan, and I'll close with this one last thought. When we lost in 1976 to Jimmy Carter, and the reason we lost is Nixon had been impeached, right? So we really got our clocks clean, and we don't want to forget those things. And the party then said, we got to run to the center, the old proverbial center, and give up our principles. And there was a man, Ronald Reagan, who said in 1976, we must not compromise our political principles for political expediency. And we know what happened 4 years later. He came back and he won. So there's plenty of room. In 1937 through 39, under FDR, there was only 16 Republican senators in the United States Senate, and I think there was 80 Democratic senators. So their ratio was much worse than what we have here in California. But again, we're governed by consent, according to the Declaration of Independence, the first country ever. And so what that means, we're a self-governing people. So really, it's really not up to the politicians to take back their state. It has to be the people. And no better group for me to speak to than the CRA, because I know you guys, as Ronald Reagan said, you're the conscience of the Republican Party. And so we can compromise our preferences, but never our principles. We have to remain steady to those things and stand on the shoulders of Lincoln and Washington and Alexis de Tocqueville and all the greats who came before us. And then just ask that God would give us a second chance here. So for that, that's my story. I'm sticking to it. And I'm just grateful for CRA that they've always been very good to me. And we just hope and pray that we win our state back. California, as California goes, so goes the nation, ladies and gentlemen. Whether these people who moved to Texas and they like to make fun of us that we're still in California, as California goes, so goes the nation. It'll catch up to them. You're not going to escape it. So California is the battleground for the soul of America, and we have to take it back. So thank you for your time.